It is my delight to introduce our speaker for today, my good friend, Reverend Wayne Edmiston. Wayne is a religious science minister who's been ministering on the Central Coast in various ways for over 20 years and is now specializing in weddings. And he has a special message for us. So take it away, Reverend Wayne.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Brian. I'm delighted to hear about the Templeton and Atascadero Center, Brian. So that's exciting news. So anyway, August, the theme is contentment. So are we content with the content? Or do we contemplate? Or are we in contempt? Those are three questions you may or may not answer. But today we're going to be talking about the three stages of fear. That's F.E.A.R. And I'm going to break down those words into individual syllables and vibrations to individualize it. So today we're keeping our attention focused on our relationship with and as God that transforms one experience because our perspective and perceptions with life are through the lens of truth, love, and oneness. And we truly are interconnected with everyone. It gives us the resilience and perseverance to meet whatever comes our way. And I have a little piece of music, but I'm not going to sing it. But it's from a musician that we learned years ago. And the song goes like this: I am alive, alive with spirit. I am alive and live and free. I am alive, alive with spirit. I am alive, spirit lives in me. So Florence Scovel Shinn expressed her philosophy as this: the invisible forces are ever working for man, who is always pulling the strings himself, though he does not know it. Owing to the vibrational power of words, whatever man voices, he begins to attract. And from the ideas of power, you are as free as your thought. You never deal with conditions. You deal with mind. Myrtle Fillmore says it this way: you do not have a problem except the one that is in your mind, and you put it there. Good for you, Myrtle. When we become mindful of Spirit's flow through us, we can give up being fearful and attracted to the outcomes. Can I hear an amen? Do I hear an amen? Of course. When we become, let me see, we're talking about the divine urge today of life seeking and expressing through us, me, you, with all of us. And we are live streaming, and that means we're zooming along. As this divine urge passes through us, we become the outflow of the divine wisdom. So put your trust in the law of good. Yes? Yes? All right. You see, the activities of our hearts embodies compassion and takes us to powerful and meaningful actions. From Ernest Holmes, he said this: there is a center in you that already knows. Develop that consciousness that flows from this center, for it is the secret place of the Most High within you. So realize this: we are the channel of divine flow. It is evidenced by our jobs, our relationships, even when things seem to have gone awry, for Spirit is our source. I know you've heard it before. Change is inevitable. Growth is optional. Divine mind within creates both the matter and the circumstances. Now I'm going to take you back to 1986. That's when my wife, Sherry, at that time, and I had moved from Chico to a place called Westwood, California, in Lassen County. And it was Halloween of '86. Now, the Lake Greenville, Susanville, and the state prison itself. Then comes January of 1990. It's winter, there's lots of snow around, and I'm up there unemployed as a substitute teacher. I'm recently widowed. And it seems to me that the universe's doors of opportunities and safety slammed shut and were padlocked. I felt broken. I was in victim consciousness and I didn't know it. You see, there's a difference between fear and despair. When you walk into a cellar, worried that the door would close shut, that's fear. Despair is when the door is closed and locked behind you. For me, everything needed to change. I must do something. I had to get off my butts. That's the B-U-T-S. And the becauses. And from there to be and cause. Or as Melody Beater would say, feel the fear and do it anyway. So I took a stand. There are no opportunities lost in divine mind. As one door shuts, another door is opened. And Charles Fillmore said this, behold, I have set before thee the open door of destiny, and no man shall shut it, for it is nailed back. Cassandra Beatty and Jennifer Delicvio wrote something special, and it was sung by Andrea Day. And I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. You've broken down and tried and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you. So we're going to walk it out and move mountains. There's a metaphorical door that widens when you use your imagination. So I put together a resume, and this resume went out to 5 state prisons. And weeks went by. The bills were still piling up, as was the snow, and the phone was silent. Finally, in early March, I heard this unusual sound, and it was the sound of the telephone ringing. And I answered it, and it was somebody talking to me from a place called Corcoran. And I kind of knew where it was. Anyway, they asked me to interview. So a couple weeks later, I drove 8 hours to get there. And I walked in, I was introduced to the associate warden. And he had his resume. He had my resume on his desk. And the interview consisted of 4 words. He said, when can you start? So, of course, I said, oh, 2 weeks. And I returned home and started packing. Good Friday arrived, 1990. I was ready to leave. I had my dog Dusty with me and the car was fully loaded. And I looked up to the universe and I said, how long will it be before I'm back? And I heard distinctly in my head, 8 months. So the day after Easter, I started teaching. But before that, I had to share some more words with Andrea. When the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet and move mountains, bring it to its feast. And so the day after Easter, I started at Corcoran State Prison as a senior librarian. And that was the only position that was open. During the week, I looked in the yellow pages for a like-minded spiritual center. And there were 2 ads that I saw. One was from Unity, and there was a little bigger ad that was religious science. And they met at the Elks Lodge in Visalia. And so I thought, oh, I'll go there. I set foot there on Sunday. And there I met some wonderful people. I also met a 3rd-year practitioner. Her name was Jackie. And during the conversation afterwards, she asked me how I was. And I said, oh, I'm fine. She knew I was a recent widower. And she said, oh, okay. But she didn't believe me because you see the acronym for FINE is feelings inside not expressed. And they had something called a spontaneous potluck. And I was invited to over there, and it was just a wonderful time. Now, Thomas Troward says this: God will provide the food, but he will not cook the dinner. The secret to enjoying life is to take an active interest in it. So from Andrea, I'll rise up. I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up unafraid. And I'll rise up high like the waves. In spite of this ache, I'll rise up. I started getting some of the New Thought philosophy. My life began changing for all the right reasons. And then it was getting along towards Thanksgiving, and I got a call from the prison back in Susanville. There was a position opening up, and was I interested? Of course I was interested. It was a teacher/librarian. So a week before Christmas, 8 months had passed, and I had returned to Westwood. And that night it was 29 degrees below zero. All we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and we will rise up like the day. That next June, I married my practitioner, Jackie. And she was up there with me in Westwood, and she started taking the 2-year required Science of Mind ministerial training in Chico. And the teachers there were Mac and Carolyn Hewen. They, at the time, founded the Atascadero/Templeton Church 45 years ago. So we are all interconnected. 2 years later, a call came from Visalia asking Jackie if she would become a staff minister. And she said, let me think about it. Well, they called twice more. And that's when we said, we need to look at that. So I called Corcoran, and I talked to the supervisor there, and she said, we'll find a way. Give me some time. So on Halloween of 1993, we moved to Visalia, and I started back at Corcoran. And there in Visalia, I started taking Science of Mind classes, up to and becoming a minister as well. My first year teacher, I was the teacher's pet. Of course, Jackie was the teacher. That summer of 1998, I had completed my ministerial training. And Jackie and I talked about it. And we said, do we want to live in fog, or would you like marine layer? And we decided we liked marine layer. So on Halloween of 1998, we moved to the Central Coast, Pismo Beach, and had our church in San Luis Obispo. And we ran that for well over 400 Sundays before we decided to do something else and specialize in weddings and teaching. I found out I was not broken. I had broken out, literally, but then that's another story. So now we move to March of 2020. COVID-19 has irrevocably changed our world and our reaction to it. And so what was our reaction? That's stage 1 of fear, F.E.A.R. Forget everything and run. Or if you were in the corporate world, fire employees and retire. But for us as individuals, so we were definitely fear-based. The result, isolation, separation. It's given us time to evaluate, to reflect, to meditate, to discuss, and Zoom. Considered it in different ways. And have we? Or as Ernest Holmes would say, do we retreat or do we spiritually advance? Do you remember the movie 1976 Network? Peter Finch is at his news desk. And I'm updating, and I'm going to literally paraphrase. Now it's March 2020. I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows it. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar's not worth a nickel. Banks are going bust. Air unfit to breathe, food unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs, our iPads, our smartphones, watching the newscasters tell us about homelessness, violent crimes, pandemics, war in other countries. The forests are burning. Exhausted frontline workers. Protests everywhere. Have the healthcare systems broken, etc. And they finish up with, that's the way it's supposed to be. It's like everywhere, everyone is going crazy. We don't go out anymore. We sit in our living rooms pleading, just leave us alone. We're fixed to the internet, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr. I'm not going to leave you alone. We don't go out anymore. I don't know what to do about the depression, the inflation, the prevailing pestilence. All I know is that you've got to get mad. Put down your TV phones, your remotes, your iPads, your Apple devices, your smartphones, as if they're called that. Put everything on pause. And I want you to get mad. This is epic. It's going to be viral. You've got to say, I'm a human being and I have value. I want you to get up, stand up with me, or not. It's your choice. Go to the window and say it. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Say it. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Things have got to change. I say treat and move your feet. Then we'll figure out what to do about the depression, inflation, all the oil crisis, the COVID-19, elections, fake news, all lives matter, etc. Does any of that sound familiar? Does it strike a chord of discontent within your being? What happened? We ripped off the first mask of fear. So enter stage 2. False evidence appearing real. Or fix everything, allow, restore. Or find examples and retool. Because God is infinite justice, you can always change the causes you feel you set into operation, and so change the results. It is always measured to you as yourself measured by your attitudes and acts. Myrtle Fillmore said that in How to Let God Help You. You see, challenges help us grow. Does boredom ignite your creative spirit? Or are you suffering from spiritual scurvy? That's a lack of vitamin C. That's S-E-E. Christian Larson believed that all people have a tremendous latent power within them, which could be harnessed for success with the right mind and the proper attitude. When we remember we are channels for good and mindful that Spirit flows through us as this is us, we begin to remind ourselves we are here for a reason. And everyone may have a different reason, and that's okay. Michael Bernard Beckwith says this: as long as you are on this planet, you are here to deliver your gifts, your talents, and your skills with confidence and inner authority, withholding nothing. We can look at our challenges and circumstances to anything in the world and know nothing is more powerful than the divine source from within. By honoring that divine flow, we can put circumstances in their rightful place, expressing love. And using the power within us, we can change the outcomes. So, to unclog your thinking, how do we do that? Change your thinking, change your life. Well, what's the process? It's called affirmative prayer treatment, or treat and move your feet. Joel Goldsmith said this: regardless of the appearance of evil, it lies within your power to realize that God has never given his power to anyone, to any group, to any condition. There is no power on earth but God. Evil, spelled backwards, is what? Live. Earth and heart use the same letters. A good day, a good cry can sometimes be wonderful, and sadness is nothing more than love announced. It clears the heart. Both say something about you and how you respond to life. So we fast forward to Halloween 2020. I had taken Jackie to the hospital in San Luis Obispo for a diagnostic check. And there in the lobby was Frank Zumwallen. He was there for other reasons, but there's no coincidence. We are all connected. And the diagnosis was stage 4 cancer. Again, change is inevitable and growth is optional. Have you ever walked on hot burning coals or swallowed fire? Have you walked on glass? What about eggshells? Training and conditioning makes the difference from being burned, cut, or out of the potential doghouse. Raymond Charles Barker says this: every improvement in the lot of man has come about because someone expanded his consciousness. And all evolution is evidenced by a progressive mind thinking in new terms to bring forth improvement. Enter stage 3 of fear. Find excellence and retrain, or find everyone and return, or face everything and rise. Our individual minds believe in the power of the situation until we stop giving it power. Biblically, we forgive ourselves 70 times 7 and redirect the truth that God is only good. We are not a reaction. We are a creation. We can liberate ourselves from and with a vision not yet conceived. And as Andrea Day says, all we need and for what we have each other, we will rise. We will rise up like the day. When we can say this or something greater, we're not putting something into the mind for betterment. Infinite Spirit is expressing itself through us, as us, right this moment. Are we listening? Are we hearing it's calling us forth to a greater good? Michael Bernard Beckwith says this: our soul is evolving, but the Spirit is unfolding. The Spirit does not evolve, the Spirit unfolds. It already is what it is. It continues to unfold to reveal its infinite nature. We become part of that revolution, and by allowing the individuality to speak and to hear rather than to the personality. So to sum up the 3 stages of fear, we can: stage 1, forget everything and run, fire employees and retire, or feel exhausted and retreat. Stage 2, false evidence appearing real. Fix everything, allow rise up high like the waves, will rise up in spite of the ache, will rise up and will do it 1,000 times again for you, for you. Roy T. Bennett, author of The Light in the Heart, says this: life is about accepting the challenges along the way, choosing to keep moving forward and savoring the journey. It's important that what thoughts you are feeding into your mind, because your thoughts create your belief and experiences. So what is that divine urge expressing to express through you? Namaste. Thank you.